Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Greg Eckel. This is What the Health. Our topic today is the pulse cure, examining the significance of heart rate variability with Dr. Torkil Færø. He's a general practitioner, an emergency physician, a documentary filmmaker, an author, and photographer. He's coming to us from Oslo, Norway, with his wife and two children. In 96, he was one of the first Norwegian medics to work for Doctors Without Borders when he worked in war-torn Angola. Over a 25-year career as a freelance doc, he's worked all over Norway, had tens of thousands of consultations, and gained a unique picture of the diseases that plague us. He has learned that the cause is most often found in the stressors of our lifestyles place on our bodies. Færø is also an award-winning photographer, author of The Camera Cure, and has made documentaries about his pilgrimages to Nidaro and Santiago de Compostela. An interveterate traveler, he has made his way by bicycle, motorbike, kayak, boat, and car through over 80 countries. He speaks 8 languages. Welcome aboard, Doc.
Thank you, Dr. Greg. Great to be on your podcast.
I'm really excited to have you on. I love this topic, and I love that your book has been the Norwegian bestseller list for 65 weeks and counting, the Pulse Cure.
69 now, yeah.
Oh, 69 weeks. I love it. It keeps going. And it's translated into 5 languages.
Six it will be.
6 now. Okay. Holy cow. It's just, you're rapidly on.
Added today was Italy. That's very recent. So.
Excellent. Excellent. So this component, I guess a lot of folks may not be tuned into heart rate variability and what it means and what does it mean to our health. So maybe we can just start broadly in that meta level for folks, and then we're going to kind of get into it.
Yeah, so the heart rate variability is the variation between heartbeats. So it's not the pulse rate in itself, which could be 60 or 70 or 150 if you exercised hard. But it's a variation between heartbeats, which is a measure of the autonomic nervous system, whether you're in the parasympathetic restful state, the recovery state, or if you're in the stressed sympathetic state. So if you're in the parasympathetic state, when you breathe in, your heart rate goes up a little bit. There's more oxygen in the lungs. And when you breathe out and less oxygen in the lungs, the heart rate, will slow down just a little bit, measured in milliseconds, but detectable by the smartwatches and smart rings and all the devices that we see now. And if you're in the stressful state, the sympathetic state, then the heart rate will beat at a very steady pace. And this is the way that these wearables can detect whether you're in a parasympathetic state or a sympathetic state and record it, of course, throughout the day and night. So, and the heart really picks up all this, it's kind of the center of command. So it picks up all the signals from the body, from your organs, from your brain, from your feelings, from your exertion after training and like everything. So it's such a good measure of the state of our physiology, and it's kind of a window into our autonomic nervous system that we doctors have no other ways of finding out. So it's really like a miracle metric biomarker. So it's so easy to find, it's so easy to show with the apps, from the watches. So it makes the people being the CEOs of their own health, they can take charge of their own health. So it's just
so a couple components on that, because I was going to do research on blood pressure about over a decade ago, and you get in on the research and you realize actually it's super variable blood pressure up and down, and that's not what we're talking about here. But I think it may be surprising for our listeners and viewers to hear that you actually want a variable heart rate, right? You're saying you're measuring the heart rate variability is the variability. The more variable your heart rate is, the healthier you are, the more relaxed you are? How would you say that?
Yes, the healthier you are and the more connection you have with your vagus nerve, that we
Mm.
understand more and more is so important. So your body is able to recover better, your immune system works better, your mitochondria work better when you have a good heart rate variability. The stress state is a sign that your body is under pressure and is is has less energy for the recovery processes in your body, for digestion and for overall cell function, really.
And what do you see? Do we have good research correlating heart rate variability to health?
Absolutely. So there's so much research probably because it's such an easy metric to get. So once you're researching something, you might as well get this easy metric into your data. So I'm often asked a lot of questions about heart rate variability, and usually I can Google anything like cancer or heart disease or heart attack or stroke or whatever, and add heart rate variability, and there will pop up so much research on this.
Mm.
And that is so interesting. Like, for example, cancer, the risk of getting cancer is correlated to heart rate variability. And if you get cancer, it will say something about the prognosis. And if you get rid of the cancer, it will say something about the risk of getting it once again, you know.
Oh, interesting. How accurate are the wearable devices?
I have used wearable like ECG devices, and at the same time that I've used these that you have on your wrist or on your finger, and they seem accurate enough. You know, there's a bit of whether your stress level is 70 or 80 is not so important. The big difference is if it's 60 or 90. You know, but I find them very accurate, really. And the best one so far that I found is the Garmin watches, but you also have the Aura rings and the Whoop band, and I use them all at the same time. So and they will vary. They will give me somewhat different numbers, but over the course of the day and week, they will vary at the same level, so to speak. And give me more or less the same answer.
Right. And what, I said before we got on the air, I kind of was like secretly hoping that you're going to give me some tips on how to raise my heart rate variability.
Yeah.
I just noticed the difference between, let's say, the Aura and the Whoop watch. I like my score on the Whoop. I know I can't compare my heart rate variability to yours. Is that correct? This is not
Yeah.
an absolute number.
Yeah. So it seems that the genetics of heart rate variability is around 50%.
Hmm.
So that you should not compare your number to other people's. So like if you had 30 or another person has 60 in heart rate variability in milliseconds, you could have exactly the same level of health. So you should only compare against yourself really over time. So and you would probably get a little bit of difference from your Whoop and Aura. How is your numbers?
They're about 50 points apart, actually, on
All
the
right.
baseline. Yeah.
All right. But they
Yeah.
would vary, from day to the next day with the same,
No,
or
so they vary consistently. It's just that it's a higher number.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Call me competitive. Doc. I know I shouldn't be, but I am.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a way of gamification of your health, so you get the score and you get the good night's sleep, then you get a good score and you feel good. And instead of earlier, all the business people and people used to brag about how little sleep they got. And
Right.
now it's how good sleep you get. So when you
That's
get to
right.
work at the lunch table, I got like 90, you got 70, and so it's a
Yes.
gamification of your health where your life and health is at stake, not some avatar or yeah.
How can we use this number? So the Apple Watch has an HRV, the Aura Ring, there's the Ultra Human Ring, there's the Whoop watch, the Garmin's, like all of
Yeah.
these wearable, it is a pretty easy and, as you're saying, accurate number to follow. How do we utilize this in our day-to-day?
Then we can see what will affect the heart rate variability. And that is what the pulse cure is all about. It's different strategies when it comes to sleep, exercise, food, rest, alcohol, all these different things that will affect your heart rate variability. So of them, of course, alcohol is the biggest stress factor. And I talk to people all the time, and I haven't met one person starting to record their HRV that is not cut down on alcohol, because they see it's such a huge impact on their stress, much bigger than you would think. Unfortunately, because I used to like having a couple of glasses of wine every day for many years. And then you have food. So if you eat food late at night, and maybe particularly if it's like junk food or pizza or crisps or sweets or things like that, it can affect your stress levels way into the night. And you will see that on your device. And then particularly, I must say, Garmin is the watch that you could see by the hour how much stress you have. So it's so much easier than to see where and when was the stress during the day. So and then you would see that these stress factors, and then of course you're more careful about eating late at night. You're more careful about exercising late at night, and so on.
Interesting. So how do you utilize it if somebody's new getting into this? Clearly getting a device to track it. Do you have favorites that you recommend in the book?
Yeah, the Garmin at this point, Garmin is by far the best. But now, of course, Samsung is coming with their Galaxy Ring, that must change the table. And then Aura Ring is very good for sleep, the sleep phases. If you have an Apple Watch, you can use an app called Athletic. That's quite good. It's quite similar to Garmin. Yeah, so there's so many choices. And I also very much like the Whoop band, also that you can put into to the app the different things that you do in the course of the day. So you get a weekly and monthly report with Whoop, and that is I think that is very interesting.
Yeah.
But what I would recommend if you start, I would not change anything for a month or more to get the baseline of how you are living right now, and then to start changing one thing at a time to identify what will affect it. Because if you change like 2 or 3 things, you don't know what affected the heart rate variability. So.
For sure. And how do you utilize this as preventative and personal medicine in the future? I mean, the future is now. How could, I mean, we're going to recommend getting the book. I'm going to have the link in the show notes for sure. But how do you utilize this for better sleep or exercise, etc.?
Yeah, so you can see, like, for example, last night it was quite hot here in the bedroom, and the difference between it must have been maybe 70, maybe 72 degrees Fahrenheit, as opposed to 65, which is the optimal temperature at night. And then my recovery during the night will be worse because of the temperature difference. So these things you can see and adjust to. The optimal temperature at night would be from 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. It should be really dark, and you will also find out that you should wind down the last hour or two before you go to bed. Dim down the lights, read a book, do something that actually relaxes you, that you can see on your monitor. And then you would sleep better with a higher recovery rate. Because you may sleep for the same amount of hours, like preferably more than 7 hours. But there could be a big difference in your recovery, in your restitution during the night. So if you have been having a couple of glasses of wine, a late night meal, and so on, you will see it that it may be the same amount of hours, but it would not be as restorative.
And when you say recovery and restorative, what is that? How is that measured?
Okay, if that is by the heart rate variability. So you would have a lower heart rate variability after a meal or alcohol, and with an optimal sleep, you would have a higher HRV, and you would feel it in the morning, this difference. I'm sure you feel, you know, if the Oura Ring gives you more than 80 points, you would feel it as opposed to, you know, like less than 60 or so.
For sure. You know, looking at that, how does the heart rate effect there? Because I've been tracking mine on, you know, if my heart rate decreases within the first 4 hours of sleep, I think that plays in on the Aura on a readiness score. I'm going to get a little geeky with you a little bit, I think. Are you incorporating that into your readings or in the book discussion?
I don't pay so much attention to it. Maybe I should, but I'm not that geeky about it, maybe.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's
so no, I don't really look into that variation. So,
yeah.
but in general, your heart rate may vary a little bit. You know, I can see that on people who exercise a lot. You know, top athletes, that their heart rate could differ, like from 40 beats a minute to 42. But their heart rate variability can vary a lot more. It can almost double, you know. So if you're overtrained, you may not see it in your heart rate, but you can see it in your heart rate variability. It becomes obvious.
Got it. Got it. Well, that is awesome. And why does alcohol affect us so much?
That is because the alcohol in itself, the molecule, that is very relaxing. You know, we feel mellow, we feel calm, and that is why a lot of people use it as self-medication. But the problem comes after alcohol will be converted into acetaldehyde, which is a very toxic molecule, and the body has to work really hard to get rid of it. And I can often see in my curves during the night that my pulse and heart rate variability is as bad as if I'm having a lecture. It's the same amount of stress as having a lecture for like 200 people that I'm just going through at night after 3 or 4 glasses of wine. And this is also an individual variation. So some people may not affect them as much. You know, there will be big individual differences. So this is so important that this is a device that will tell you how you react to things and not how an average of people will react to the same things, you know, because that could be very, very different. But that is what we are reading, you know, out of the research. We are looking at the averages, and here you can see your individual score.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, you were talking about the top 8 strategies that would give us an extra 24 hours or 24 hours, 24 years to live.
Yeah.
What do you put in those top 8?
That is a big American study from American veterans from the Army, from the service, and they have studied like 700,000 of them and followed them for like more than 10 years. So it's quite a big study. And they have found that if you do the right choices that are more or less exactly the same as I have in the Pulse Cure, then if you do that from you are 40 years old, you will live 24 years longer than one who does not do those good things. And the really good thing is that if you change your lifestyle at 60, you will live 18 years longer. So you will more or less double your expected lifetime if you do these choices. And that will be getting enough exercise, eating healthy foods, abstaining from tobacco or smoking, having little stress in your life, drinking little alcohol, and also not using opioids. I don't treat that in my book because that's probably more an American, problem with the opioid crisis.
Sure.
So, and also good relations, that would also be important.
Wow.
And that you can see, there's so many people telling me that when they go on a holiday with their best friends, their heart rate variability improves. And on the
Yes.
other hand, if they go to work and they have a certain colleague that is, giving them trouble, then they can see that in their heart rate variability and stress curves, in the moment. You would not, and this is what you could not see in your Oura Ring or Whoop, because they don't give you the from hour to hour measurements like Garmin does. So this is what
Yes.
you could only see in Garmin, actually.
Got it. And how on lowering stress or measuring stress, you're gonna measure that in a heart rate variability of being in a very high heart rate variability. This is after a person has got a month long of calibration. They start moving some of these levers as far as things that can increase heart rate variability. What are some of your favorite ways to increase someone's heart rate variability?
That would be breathing slowly, breathing maybe 4 seconds in and 6 seconds out is my favorite, or something close to that. The coherent breathing is, will be a little bit different from each person. So often it's the breathing that you feel really good about. That would be more or less in that area, with 4 seconds in and six seconds out. And cold showers, cold water immersion, cold plunges is also very restorative. And that is why athletes use it so much, to dampen the inflammation in the body. So
Yeah.
after a rough exercise, you will get inflammation in your body, and it could be a good thing to keep it down, actually.
Awesome. What with regards to how long would you recommend for the breath work? Like, is that 5 minutes of breath work a day, or is somebody doing that for multiple hours?
I would think it depends on the person. Ideally, you would probably try to get like 15 minutes, but I think it could also be more effective if you do it multiple times during the day, maybe for a short time, maybe half a minute between meetings and between calls, or before you go in the door when you come home to your family, and so that it gets almost like a routine that you do all the time. Maybe in a conversation, when the other person starts talking, you breathe more slowly to calm yourself down. Maybe if there is discussion in the boardroom or such things, that it becomes almost automatic that this is the strategy that you use all the time to calm yourself down. Because the breath is always there, it's always accessible.
I love it. I love that as a leading recommendation too, because everybody, of course, the silly joke is don't forget to breathe, and it is accessible to everyone, no matter where they are. Dr. Færø, I really love this. We're going to get the Pulse Cure, your book, and I'm going to put your links to get that book in the comments, because this is, I mean, you gave people over 60 years old, 18 years longer, over 40 years old. You've doubled their life expectancy with the information in your book. And this is really accessible to everyone
And it's free, all the strategies in the Pulse Cure are free. So because breathing, nature, cold, the whole foods, abstaining as much as you can from alcohol, this is all free or even cheaper than the alternative. So it's after that you get sick, everything gets expensive. So this is a kind of preventative medicine instead of reactive medicine. This is how we have to do it in the years to come.
I love it. Any last parting message for our listeners and viewers?
Now that would be that this is actually fun. This is a fun way of getting healthier, and that you can see it. That it's so much easier to motivate yourself to do the hard choices when you see the results, like in the yellow and the orange that you will see on the Garmin, or you can see it on the Whoop as a green, yellow, and red. And you can see the effect of your choices. Makes it so much more motivating and actionable to change your lifestyle.
I love it. Dr. Færø, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here with our listeners and viewers of What the Health. If you all like today's show, please give us a like, get out there, give us a 5-star review. We'd really super appreciate it. You can change a life by sharing the show. We will see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.